welcome to another League of Legends video, and in this one I will be showing you some crucial information that all laners need to know about jungling, or otherwise known as things you don't do that make junglers hate laners. As a jungle main who has climbed with every role except ADC, because why would I do that, I get particularly frustrated when laners have a complete blindness to what the enemy jungler is doing, or even worse, when information is pinged out and explained and the laner ignores it and still ends up suffering, and then of course complaining. So we're going to look at some of these things that may seem simple on the outside when watching it in a video, but it is truly rare that you ever see laners understand these concepts and apply them in game. And as a laner, if you want to avoid ganks and be in a position to carry your games, these are the things you need to know. And I hate to do the YouTube thing, but we are on the road to 100k subscribers, so if you do enjoy my videos, please consider liking this video and of course subscribing. Now we have an excellent game here as an example of the kind of things laners really need to know, and to show you the impact they can have on the game, as well as what happens when you do these mistakes against a good jungler. But before we do, I just want to highlight the most basic aspect of the game, where a jungler starts and how it affects your early laning phase in regards to warding as well as lane positioning. Now this is made all the more easy if you have a ward on one of the enemy buffs, like in this game, but if you don't, just like your jungler, you must know where the enemy started and what champion they are. Do they want to farm till 6? Do they want to gank level 3? Do they want to gank level 2? All of this affects if you should push or pull a lane, as well as where you will place your vision. But most people just, blindly push and don't consider anything else. So in this situation, we have a blue buff that is warded after a cheeky invade by the blue team. The top laner on the red side is late to lane, indicating very clearly that the enemy jungle Mordekaiser, yes, jungle Mordekaiser, started on that red buff. Now this guy had a 90% win rate with jungle Mord, he was hard smurfing and diamond, and so he knows what he's doing. Now this is the thing the laner needs to understand, and we are of course watching from the laner perspective. Junglers will always attempt to track each other, and I've made a video just on that if you were interested in how to do so, but I also made it from the perspective of laners, and what you need to focus on here is where is the enemy jungler and where would he most likely want to come and gank my lane. Especially important if you like to shove. Now you can use your jungler's pathing as an indirect sort of mirror matchup of the enemy jungler. If Ornn is basically on his 4th and 5th camps, you can assume the Mordekaiser is at least around that area as well. Now you will note on the minimap that Ornn ends up pinging out the Mordekaiser's anticipated location. He's probably in the blue area, he's probably going to be doing that bottom side scuttle. This means bottom lane and mid lane should put down appropriate vision, specifically in that area, because not only does it help you avoid the gank, it also helps your jungler track him, set up counter ganks, counter jungle, and so on. Now, don't put wards in the side bush here, not even control wards please, because guess what, if you put it there, the jungler can just loop on around the back, he can also loop in and steal your jungler's raptors, and you have no idea what's going on. Now, if you're in Syndra's case, you want to move on down and put a ward in that pixel bush, so as soon as Mordekaiser does the scuttle and moves to the mid lane, you see him, you can back up, and you don't die. What Syndra does though is the complete opposite. Even though Ornn pinged out the Mordekaiser, and pinged it out repeatedly, the Syndra moves up to the top side, hits the plant, revealing, surprise surprise, empty camps completely, and puts a ward by the raptor pit. Your jungler has communicated to you where the enemy jungler is. We know he started on the top side, you know the Ornn is doing the top side scuttles, which means the Mordekaiser is most likely 99% doing the bottom side scuttle at approximately the same time. That ward is completely useless and won't give you any vision. By the time the second spawn of the raptors are up, the ward probably would have even died. And of course, basically what follows, the Syndra dies to a gank and then Mordekaiser takes over the game. I cannot show you the footage, 1 because the replay is lost to time, thank you very much Riot, and 2 because the abuse Mordekaiser inflicted upon the enemy team was definitely demonetizable. And so let's look at our core game example where we can just look at how all of this stitches together and how a laner ignoring their jungler's pings and tracking and also not using their wards properly, as well as putting their lane states in gankable situations, can cause an enemy jungler to completely take over a game in dominating fashion, even when you really shouldn't have. You don't want to gift the enemy jungler freebies, and as such in this game, we again have Ornn jungle, and on the enemy team we have Sylas jungle. Yes, this was actually my game, so I am speaking from a point of pain as well as learning. The Ornn starts in the blue, and as is customary, you want to do Grump, Wolves, Raptors, red, almost a full clear. You can do it very quickly actually. The Sylas on the other hand starts in his red buff, and because of his kit, he has a variety of clears he can actually do. At level 3 he has a very strong gank as well, he can power farm, he can do whatever he likes. As such, again, the Ornn pings top lane, listen, you're pushing. The Sylas will be approximately on that blue roundabout now. It's important you either back up, let it pull a bit, or place deep enough vision such that you can escape the situation. Now, as someone who's played a lot of top lane as well, I understand the need to set up your wave in a way that lets you dominate the lane, or win trades and get that solo kill. but at the same time spoon-feeding the enemy jungler a kill. Oh look, here's the Sylas, oh look, now you're dead. You shouldn't be in that situation whatsoever. That's already his first blood that shouldn't have happened. Now this is not a very good jungling game from the Ornn's perspective. Not afraid to say this does happen, and the Sylas takes advantage of it. However, from a laner perspective, your jungler pinged it out. You could have just placed that free trinket ward. It really is no skin off your back. Your Teemo, sprint away, and Sylas doesn't get a gank, he falls back into his jungle and onto that Scuttle Crab. So that's laner mistake 1. Laner mistake 2 is the following. Ornn had rotated up just in case the fight might have gone on a little longer. Obviously it didn't. He manages to secure the Scuttle Crab, and you think, well, that's great. Syndra is in prime position to rotate. So Ornn begins fighting it out with the Sylas, which is kind of difficult to do solo. Zed is remarkably low and chunked, but the Syndra doesn't notice. The Syndra doesn't even move. In fact, you can see from the Sylas' point of view, the Zed even began to rotate in case the Ornn chased before the Syndra. This isn't good. If you have dominant lane priority and the enemy laner is very low and would have to walk the long way around to the fight, you're full HP. The thing you need to realize is that this is not pro play. This is solo queue. This isn't about the theoretical, philosophical, and mathematically best way to play a lane such that the minions succumb to your will and the enemy laner is suffocated for all life. Solo queue is about rotations, wins games. Now in this situation, it's not too bad. A kill wasn't close, the Sylas was backing off, they weren't going to be able to catch him, it is still Sylas. As such, you can fall away. It's just more about the principle that there was no bothering to even remotely try and help the jungler. Now that isn't the issue. As a jungler, you can live with this, you got the crab, you can move down behind the lane because your lane is shoving, you won't be seen by any vision, and take the bottom side scuttle. That's really a nice haul. So the Syndra's push that gives you that direct benefit, so that's nice. But if we want to look at what laners are doing right, which make your jungler love you, but make the enemy jungler hate you, is that the Draven Yuumi bottom lane had been holding onto the trinket ward. They knew Ornn started bot lane, they knew he was most likely going to be on the top side, and unlike the Syndra in the first example that we looked at, they saved their trinket ward until after Ornn has taken that Scuttle Crab, after Sylas has backed away from the fight. They know now that Ornn will have priority on that bottom side scuttle, and so they place a trinket ward, and that thwarts the Ornn gank. They see him coming, they can back off. It's really quite simple to avoid a gank early when the enemy jungler doesn't have any map scaling or things like this. Well played by the blue bottom lane. Now the Syndra is going to commit yet another big error. The Sylas had gone back to base before heading to the bottom side. As Ornn, I like to do this clear where I can loop around, try get both crabs, look for ganks, and as soon as the Grom spawns a second time, you take it, and then you can sequence from Grom to Wolves to Raptors to Krugs. I might do a video on that jungle route if you're interested. It's just a way of maximizing XP. But while I've said that, you will see the Sylas crossing over the Scuttle Vision, crossing over the river in the ward that the Ornn put down previously, and the Syndra shows no signs of even noticing it. But the Ornn did, and in turn sets up for a counter gank. Syndra's flash gets burned in a situation where it really shouldn't have been burned, and you are in a mobile mage in the mid lane. Sylas coming up from different angles will be very punishing when you don't have flash and don't see him coming. In this case, you saw him coming and yet your flash is burned. Now, as you can see from the fight, the Syndra hits level 6 first, Zed's still level 5, they both end up getting kills on the enemy jungler, but what would have happened had the Ornn not set up for a counter gank? The Syndra probably ends up in a situation where she just dies. But this happens so often to laners, they're so focused on their lane 1v1, on manipulating the wave, maybe not, that they don't notice the minimap. They don't notice that the vision that's been put down for them has just revealed the entire path of the enemy jungler, and you as a laner also have to project where he's going to be and listen to the pings of your jungler. You have to trust that your jungler can track them. Now obviously in low mid MMRs, that could be horrifically mistaken, and such you should track it well yourself and put down the wards yourself. So far you're thinking, well, better jungler wins, sure, I mean the Ornn did some good moves, there's a free ganks, the enemy bottom lane did a great job. Let's look at the big mistakes that were made by everyone that lets the Sylas take over this game in an abusive way. Now laner's stubbornness is definitely one of the biggest mistakes you'll ever see from a jungler perspective, because as a jungler you have much more to think about than teleporting halfway across the map to counter gank. The Teemo gets very low in a 1v1 versus the Yasuo. As such, retreats to his tower. Now he has placed that trinket ward down, huzzah, everyone celebrate. The Sylas hops over the plant, he has more than enough time to run all the way back to the second tier tower and go back to base. There's literally no reason for him to hang around, yet he does, and yet Yasuo spins, and the chains fly, and Teemo gets squashed. Completely unnecessary, but because the Sylas doesn't understand proper camp sequencing and he's a bit everywhere, the Ornn can say, well, you know, thank you very much, I am going to invade on your red buff. But watch from the Ornn's perspective the Sylas pathing. He moves into the tri-bush, in towards the direction of that red side jungle. Now this means that he is most likely looking to continue that extended pathing down towards the mid lane. As such, pings are thrown out as they should be. Syndra, back up, place a ward, don't be in a position to get ganked. Ornn's busy taking the red buff and counter jungling, which means if he doesn't get a kill here, he will be significantly experience deprived, and that's exactly what you're looking to do. Syndra hasn't used her trinket ward, she didn't buy a control ward, and as such gets ganked. Now the Ornn goes in with his ultimate, tries to save the day, and ends up dying also, so that's a mistake as well. Sometimes laners cannot be saved, and even if you want to try and be heroic, it just ends up making the situation worse. So again, that's yet another mistake by the Syndra, another mistake by the Teemo that has let the Sylas go top lane, get a kill, go mid lane and get a kill. In fact, 2 kills, but that's on the jungler. There was literally no reason for that to happen. It's laziness on the part of the top laner, and it's complete obliviousness by the mid laner and not listening to jungler pings, and why it's important to not mute jungler's pings. Now on the other hand, the Ornn can make up for the situation thanks to good laning behavior by the Thresh and the Ezreal. Even though they are being hard stomped, that ward in the bottom bush there shows Sylas walking up through. The Ornn can finish the wolf camp and rotate down. Unfortunately, the Ezreal and the Thresh are very low, and as such have given a free invitation to be dove. Thankfully, the Ornn shows up, the Thresh does a good job, they kill the Sylas, and then Ornn is able to chase down and get a double kill of his own on the Yuumi and the Draven. So that's a nice turn in the situation where the jungler could rotate and make a play on the over-aggressiveness of the enemy jungler thanks to a good ward placed by the Thresh. However, the Sylas still got kills in all 3 lanes when he should only have gotten perhaps on the bottom lane. Now we build up to the crescendo and basically the ceiling point of the game. The Thresh, Syndra, and Ornn make a nice collapse on the Zed. Thresh is able to chase down, get the ignite, and kill the Zed. That's excellent. Now after a horrific battle in the bottom lane, Ornn stays behind to hold some of the tower plates, and now you're going to see mid and top make even worse mistakes than they already did, with literally no concern about the enemy jungler and ignoring vision and pings from their team. Sylas not only goes to the mid lane, he goes to the mid lane through control wards after being seen leaving bottom lane in that direction. The Syndra is so greedy for shoving the wave blindly and using her spells to get it out of there that she ends up having to burn a flash. She has her ult stolen, Sylas uses it to chunk her, and now she has to wait under the tower. But again, extrapolate the jungler's pathing. He moves into your jungle around the Raptor, but that much is clear. The pings are coming through. Back away, walk towards your base. Don't put yourself in a position to be killed right underneath your own tower because you were lazy, because you were stubborn, and because you just did not pay attention to the warning signs given by your jungler. The fact that your jungler cannot TP and your jungler is not in a position to help you in that particular situation. This will happen. However, this isn't the end of the story. The Sylas now moves on after that kill, and Teemo is engaged in a fight with the Yasuo. There are pings coming down from the Ornn saying, listen, I cannot get there in time, please back up, please stop fighting. The Sylas is headed there either through the jungle or after taking the Scuttle Crab. It's just warning ping saying back up, the Sylas is coming. Guess what? The Sylas shows up, the Teemo dies, the Teemo spam pings confusion, and then from that point on, basically the Teemo trolled the Sylas's lead, and the lead from the enemy team was just too great to overcome. And all of this shouldn't have happened. The Sylas, yes, was the hard carry of the game, and yes, he made the right decisions. As a jungler, that's your job, right? Exploit pockets in vision, exploit laner ignorance to get your kills, to get your laners fed. That is what jungling is. But from a laner perspective, I'm trying to tell you that you can be more than this. You are worth more than 40 gold. You can be worth 700 gold. You are not just food for the enemy jungler. And all of this, when your jungler at a certain elo is tracking and pinging and asking you to ward, listen to that. Track the jungler yourself if you don't trust them. Place your vision in ways that allow you to avoid these ganks. Don't burn your flash when you don't have to burn your flash. Don't be lazy going back on your tower and then die again. All of this is easily avoidable. And the secret is when you do these things, your jungler can easily set up counter ganks, can easily gank your lanes more because you're letting the lane pull a little bit. All of this factors into good team cohesion and good rotations that help you win games. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope this helps you from a laner perspective. From jungler's perspective, I hope you can see how the Sylas played exploiting this laner ignorance. That's how you want to play the game. Please do like, share, and comment if you enjoyed it. I would like to get to 1,000 likes. That is my metric for a successful video, but of course only if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing for more League of Legends videos coming very soon, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.